Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
He said he was coming soon, but it's happening now. They said it was going down. That the Bible shows us how. He said he was coming soon, but it's happening now. They said it was going down.
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. There's a new standoff between Vietnamese and Chinese ships reported in the South China Sea. Apparently, the Chinese and Vietnamese vessels have been involved in a new confrontation in a disputed part of the South China Sea after Hanoi tried to expand oil drilling operations in the area, according to social media reports. Neither country has confirmed the encounters, which indicates that both sides are trying to avoid further escalation, according to one Chinese observer. Chinese social media account South China Sea Wave said in a WeChat post on Sunday that more than a dozen vessels were involved in the encounter, which was triggered by an internal notice from the Vietnamese authorities saying that they would expand the drilling program at Block 051A near Vanguard Bank this month. Funny how Vanguard is involved in some way. Vanguard and the other rock, of course, are involved in almost everything. But it says that again, that South China Sea Wave, an account that specializes military reports and research into the area, said that the expansion program would violate the declaration on the conduct of parties in the South China Sea. The declaration, which China and the members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations signed in 2002, affirms freedom of navigation and overflight, the peaceful settlement of disputes, and calls for self-restraint. So many of you guys may not know this. Many of you probably do here. But BlackRock and Vanguard, there's a third one that I always forget about, but between the three of those companies, they have more money than all of the countries. I mean, it's insane. So it actually goes USA, China, and then BlackRock. BlackRock actually has more money than all of the other countries of the world combined. It is number 3 in GDP, and these are regular people that own this thing. You can see how that would have a whole lot of sway when you have more money than countries. But yet you don't have a government. There's nobody who is there's no democracy inside of corporations. So you can imagine how that could affect us in a negative way. So we'll talk about this and much, much more. Of course, obviously, China and Vietnam have been having a lot of weird events go down. Of course, we need Vietnam. We need the Vietnamese area. We need that whole area. Again, we need all sorts of areas over there if we want to hold them back from world domination. The Philippines, of course, is something that also needs to be talked about. So we'll talk about all of that tonight when we come back. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Thank you guys for all showing up today. I just want to let you guys know I am under the weather, so today there will be no shoutro, and it will probably be a quicker show. I actually had several things going on at once, and I ended up going into the hospital all after the last show, and I ended up, I'm glad I went because I ended up having walking pneumonia, which walking pneumonia on its own isn't horrible, but if it does go into full-blown pneumonia, then that's like really, really dangerous. So that on top of another bout of diverticulosis, it was really good that I went in. So I'm not feeling too well, but I will bring you all of the current events. And if you haven't been here before, you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to share here today. And of course, you can find today's show just by looking for today's thumbnail. Nukes moved to NATO border. We'll talk about that later. We'll show you the 18 bombers that were just moved right on the other side of it. And then, of course, we'll talk about everything else that is going on right now. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, people are pointing out, and I don't know if that might be a different Vanguard. The Vanguard BlackRock should always be talked about. If that, it says Hanoi controlled in that, so I just caught that, and I think I assumed that this was the big bad Vanguard, and I may be wrong. So I just wanted to correct myself before I'm wrong. If that is not, I assumed that this was Hanoi controlled branch of Vanguard, but I think Vanguard is really big. I don't know if this is the same Vanguard, and I know Vanguard's a very common name. Dex, this isn't the same Vanguard, is it? Is it a different one?
I think they're referring to Vanguard Bank as a location in the ocean, as opposed to owned by the Vanguard company.
So let me just correct that right there before we get any farther into the show. If I make a screw up, then I try to fix it. Or if you guys call me out on a screw up, I always try to fix it and correct myself. Either way, Vanguard is, nobody talks about Vanguard. Everybody talks about the big rock, but nobody talks about the Vanguard part of it. The rock, the guard, and the third one. I always forget what that last one is. Dex, do you know the third big one that's involved in everything? They even owned 5% or more. They have to declare when they own more than 5% of something. They owned more than 5% of the companies. You know, all of the companies there were only 3 choices on what you could get as far as this medical thing that happened. And these companies owned, each one of them, all of them owned a chunk of each one of these. So if you went, it's like 5%, 5%, 5%. So all of these companies or these groups ended up profiting off of that. And there was so much profit. It was insane. But anyways.
Well, the 3 major investment houses that basically, as they say, own corporate America are the Black and the Rock, as well as Vanguard. And then the other one is State Street. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, I don't think, that's not from memory, but if State Street's big, then no one talks about them, and less people talk about the van than they do about the Rock. But that's, as far as the Rock just got involved in UKR and everything else that's going on over there. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Of course, on Friday or Thursday, they announced that Twitter would be run by this woman who is directly connected with the W and the E and the F. Jacob Israel actually had a pretty good theory on that I think it's crazy. Like, he knows that people are just going to absolutely go nuts when he hires somebody like that, and especially somebody like that. When she interviewed him, it didn't even seem like they got along. The woman has direct and utter ties with the W and the E and the F after going like free speech, everything, saying, no, we got to protect this. And he's been, calling out all of the establishment, and then all of a sudden he hires one of the main people. Jacob said maybe this is like something like, hey, you didn't want me as CEO, now I'm going to give you your worst nightmare of a CEO. Like, he's trolling the world with this choice, that he purposely chose her to be over the top, like, world establishment order stuff. I don't know, but it is getting pretty crazy, and it's right before what's coming up in about 6 months here when we pick the ruler of the country. So it's very odd, to say the least. And then, yeah. And let's see here. And Dex, do you want to talk about, let's see here, Apple's next major project is so good, expert claims, and we could get a glimpse within weeks.
Yes. So this is, I'm still not buying this. Not the story is not true. I'm not sure I'm buying the product in the sense, but what they're talking about are these new VR goggles that are coming out, and actually they're supposed to be AR and VR, which I don't think we've actually seen anyone accomplish something like that. The other crazy thing is it's supposed to have like a $3,000 price tag, so never don't leave it to Apple to have something that's not that's inexpensive and affordable for everyone. So obviously this isn't for everyone. If it does come out, they're expecting to announce it later in June, around June 5th, if it's true. But I think there's a picture or two in here you can see. But the whole idea is you wear these goggles, it augments your experience by painting or putting stuff on the screen while you're looking at it in real time. So if you were using walking directions, you would see the directions on the screen in front of you, overlaid on top of what you're seeing in the street as you're walking down the street or potentially driving. I don't know how safe it would be to drive with a pair of goggles on like this, but I guess at some point that may be where they're going. Is this something you would wear? The interesting thing is the guy who sold Oculus to Zuckerberg for, I don't know, $1 billion or more, Palmer Luckey. He's one of the people who's actually tried these out, and you know, you would expect him to be an expert since he built Oculus and sold it, and is obviously still in the space. And he said they're phenomenal. Now, he can't go into detail and hasn't really told everybody what it does, because I'm sure he was under NDA when they let him try it out. And if you recall, he's also the one that created those VR goggles that would actually unalive you if you lost in a game. But although nobody's ever worn them to try it out for obvious reasons, I think we showed that on the show when it was first announced that he built those. And there's a picture of them as well in here. But are you willing to drop $3,000 on a pair of VR goggles? I doubt it, but who knows? Maybe we'll see this coming out. This is, the whole thing with Meta didn't really work out well, although a lot of people think this is the future. If this is the approach they're going of doing both AR and AR being augmented reality, where you see the world in front of you and it puts stuff on top of it, and VR being it's closed and you don't see anything, you just see a screen. If they're going down this path and combining the two into one, that would be, a very different approach and a different step for these types of this type of equipment. I don't know. We'll probably see some people walking down the street with these things on their head for sure. But people are going to buy them.
People are going to buy them. And I'll tell you what, I've seen this is a really bad picture of like what it will look like. This shows like a little map in the corner. They literally, I know what they did with this. They transposed two pictures and just kind of put it in the corner to give you an idea. This is a rough idea. In real life, you are going to see it outline all of the buildings, and it will look like a crazy world, and then it will show you an arrow, going in front of you in the street, and then it will show the arrow curving and animated going around the corner. I have said that this is the future. It's not, and I also say I have my problems with this. This is most likely why we're going to own nothing and be happy. It is not just in every sci-fi movie. This is the real deal. People are giving Zuckerberg crap. It's just that it hasn't caught on yet. These $3,000 goggles, the thing is there are people that spend $3,000 on $2,000 on a huge gaming setup, and then another $1,500 on headsets, so they can get the really good VR experience, not the Oculus crappy 720p. We're talking about, 4K viewing experience, all the stuff they have now, but you also need a super, super duper computer for that. If this Apple packages it up into one thing, I guarantee you people are going to buy it. People are going to buy it just to say they have it. When people come over to say, oh, you got to try this, it's crazy, and people are going to buy this. And sadly, it's going to take Apple to get this push. This push is bad, though, for what comes next. They are going to be selling and people are going to be buying digital real estate. When you walk down the street, when you see this picture, there will be little pop-up ads. If you can imagine a pop-up ad in real life. And if somebody owns this little white building on the right, or say that blue restaurant or whatever that is, they could literally have a pop-out ad come out at you while you're walking down the street. This technology in the next 5 years will be on sunglasses that doesn't look any different from anything else. That's my prediction, looking at all of the patents and the things that they've already made. So you'll be able to walk down the street and see a whole different world. It's really getting there that fast, and it took a long time, and it exponentially has gone faster and faster. You'll be able to walk in at home. You'll be able to walk through your home or essentially be in a Walmart, pick out products, and then those products, just like as if you went to the store, a lot of people want it because it's faster, just you get the product in hand. You'll be able to pick out a product virtually, and then that product will be shipped to your house within an hour, and it will feel like you just went to the store. So in the same time it takes you to drive to the store, you'll be able to pick it out and physically look at it, even pick it up in the virtual world, and then say, oh, I'm going to buy this. And you just tap and boom, it's on the way to your house. By the time you get out of the experience, you most likely have your stuff there. If you don't believe me, look at what they're setting up with the patents and the copyrights and everything else. The FAA is setting this up. So there's going to be a highway of drones every single place in the United States. And this is going to be global. This is something that's all over the place. They're already setting up for it, and this is the way. And with CV, they showed that people could get that people would pick this up if they were locked in. Dex, did you want to? I saw the light blink there.
Yeah. Speaking of CV, there's another thought I had on the two thoughts on this. One, it can actually start picking up and identifying people. So imagine, the whole notion like we see in the military of friend or foe. You're walking down the street and you can see friend or foe based on, what categorizations it put people in. You could also, along the same vein of what you were talking about, purchasing something, you could see somebody and go, I like that shirt he's wearing, ship it to my house. And, it auto identifies it, ships it to your house, and you have that shirt. Crazy tech. When we think about it, there's some interesting use cases that may just seem really cool and fun and all that, but then there's also that whole scary notion of it about classifying more data, classifying more people, and putting everything into this matrix, so to speak.
I'm pulling up a picture. This is from the show Black Mirror. In this episode they talk about essentially every little interaction you have with people. Say you bump somebody and you knock the coffee out of their hand, then they rate you a 1. Then your rating out of all of your ratings, like a Google rating, goes down. And if it goes low enough, you won't be able to take transport or go onto a train or take a bus. It happens to one of these people in this show, and it just basically, they have a bad day like anyone has had. You're running late, your alarm doesn't go off, you wake up, you spill something, you trip. All of these things end up in their rating getting so bad, by the time they get to the office, they're not allowed to enter the office until their rating goes back up. People think this is a joke, but this is where we're heading. It's a social credit score. That is literally what is the framework is being put up right now. So imagine walking down the street and seeing everybody's stats next to them. Their equivalent of Facebook, only it's live and it's right there. So you can see their, imagine this. You know how everybody, for those that keep their Facebook totally public, imagine keeping your Facebook public and then walking down the street and people could see your profile. They could literally swipe and look at your family photos and all sorts of stuff. That's the framework that's being made right now. So also, yeah, I'll talk about it later, but the people that say, oh, I don't care if they're watching me, or I don't care if they monitor me, or I don't care if they have my photos, who cares, I'm not a criminal. They scrape these photos and they're going to put them in systems like this. And later down the road, they'll have photos of you that you didn't know that they had and they didn't ask you for, and they'll be in systems like this. They'll probably be even used for advertisements on this new system, and you won't even know about it. Anyways, and then are you who you say you are? TSA tests facial recognition technology to boost airport security. This is completely and utterly wrong. Dex, I don't take planes, and I haven't taken a plane in a long time. And by the time I do, it's probably going to be in a completely different experience. I mean, it's been super long. Is this something that's just is it gonna change what it's already like, or it's just gonna add on to it?
Yeah, I've not seen how this is actually working. The description is you basically swipe an ID card into a slot, and then you look into a camera, and it matches your face to the face that's on file and probably identified into that security card that you have. And that's how they verify that you are who you say you are, as opposed to you're somebody else just holding someone else's ID and using it to gain access. So I guess on one hand, they're saying, hey, we're doing ID verification, which the human does by looking at your driver's license, typically in the US when you're going on a when you're staying inside the country, going from state to state. They typically look at the ID, look at your ticket, make sure the names are the same, and look at your face and say, yeah, you're that person, and you move on. So there's human error involved or human interpretation involved. And it sounds like they're trying to get away from the human interpretation and give it all to the computer. And this is rolled out. It's in, I think it's BWI, or is that Boston Airport, I believe, or Baltimore Airport. Baltimore Washington International, Thurgood Marshall Airport, BWI. So I guess people can see it there. People can try it there. It's now in full effect. I think we had talked about this type of technology being used, and it has been in use, not necessarily lining up, but definitely taking your picture when you're dealing with the border and coming through, like customs. I've seen that where you'll pull your passport out. Sometimes you go through a system where a human looks at it, but then sometimes you go through a kiosk and you swipe your passport and you have to stare into the screen and it takes your picture. I don't know if it's comparing it with facial ID or just registering the photograph for purposes of having that for tracking. But either way, this is not good. I don't like this whole notion of facial recognition being integrated into our transportation.
And then Dex, it's great having you be able to cover some of these for me. Can you talk about the holiday lawmakers will fly from London to Sydney in just 2 hours?
Wow, this is yet again another crazy, I don't call it an idea. It looks like it's coming to fruition, but it seems to be what Virgin Galactic, or people like what Virgin Galactic were doing, where they were doing their space flights, but doing a plane and basically suborbital flight. But they're suggesting now what they're going to be able to do is be able to fly from, say, London all the way to Sydney, Australia, which, by the way, that's a long flight. I think that's probably 20 hours of flying at least. And they're going to go into space to do it, or at least low orbit, and be able to do it in 2 hours. And so, that's a big time savings. That's a huge leap in our capability and evolution of technology. So on one hand, that's really cool. On the other hand, it's kind of, they're also saying it's going to take about 10 more years before we have it commercially available. But just imagine that, it was kind of cool when you could fly from the States to, say, London, or the States to Paris in, a shorter amount of time, because you were taking a supersonic, flight like the Concorde, which is supposed to be coming back at some point. And I think there's other jets that are being built that are going to go supersonic for commercial flight. But this is taking it to a whole new level. And it's, being able to fly all the way around the globe, so to speak, in 2 hours. That would be a huge breakthrough in travel. I can't imagine what it would cost. I can't imagine it's going to hold 300 passengers like we see our large jets holding today. And a matter of fact, the pictures they show of the concepts of the Virgin, suborbital planes, are much smaller, but they do have a handful of passenger seats in them. I'm not sure this is probably going to be used for the elite and their means of transportation. It'll probably be much longer than 10 years before any of us could ever, grab a ticket to fly, halfway around the world in less than 2 hours.
As far as going there fast, I kind of enjoy the travel. I know that people that do it a lot probably don't. I think it's actually fun to be on a plane for a while, but I like planes.
20 hours will kill you, though. It's especially in the back of a plane. It's miserable. I've done that once. The
most I've been on it is I've been on it a long time through transfers, but I think 5 or 6 hours on one plane. So I haven't experienced that. And catalyst for thought, that's not true. About 1,000 emails would result in, it would. I've been to a funeral and I get 1,000 emails, so that's not exactly true. But what 10 American cities will look like in 2050, predicted by AI. What 10 American cities will look like in 2050 predicted by AI. It asks the software to imagine future cities, and they are filled with flying cars, solar power, and lush vegetation, which is kind of funny because that's what the 1980s thought that the future would be like right now. But the one part I have a problem with is the lush vegetation. I don't think that would be the case, but who knows? Maybe they know something we don't. And it asked the image generator Midjourney to imagine what 10 American cities would look like in 2050 using prompts from leading experts in smart city developments. The prompts focused on how overcrowding, the great change of the climate, and technological development are likely to change the cities of the future. The amazing results show many of the concrete jungles adorned with lush vegetation sprouting from sci-fi looking high-rises that winged vehicles soar around in bright blue skies. Yeah, that's the one error they made too. Blue skies, right? They will most likely be white and solid. So yeah, some pretty trippy. What's funny is this reminds me of the Amazon building in downtown Seattle. There is a building, and it looks like a big biodome thing. In fact, I was a couple blocks away from it, and that was the day I saw, what's his face, Jeff Bezos. He had no security. He was like super sketched out, and I think it's because he realized that I noticed who he was. And then I asked him if he was Jeff Bezos. Oh no, I get it all the time, and he totally lied. But anyways, it was like literally a block and a half away from this biodome thing that Amazon has, where it is literally looks like the Pauly Shore biodome, and it has all vegetation inside. And it's the stupidest looking thing, comparing it to all of the other stuff, but some people like it, and some people believe that that's actually what the future is going to look like. And apparently AI agrees. Dex, go ahead.
They actually have Seattle in here amongst others. I think the one you were showing was New York. If you scroll down, there's Houston, Washington, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Chicago, Seattle.
Is that
and
Tokyo?
LA.
I'm trying not to look at the names. Houston, that's
Boston.
Houston.
Yeah, Houston.
That looks like Tokyo. It almost looks like it's Asian culture inspired. And then here we go. Washington, D.C., obviously. That's a trip. Looks like drones or something. And then we have, that's got to be New York. That's New York. New York doesn't look that cool, actually, out of all of them. What the heck is this?
That's Philly.
Oh, that's Philly?
New York was the first one.
This looks like Central Park, though. It looks like and look at the buildings. I think the AI used like inspiration from New York Central Park for this one. And then look at this thing. It's just a big old like digital mouth or something. Is this San Francisco? It's got to be San Francisco. Yep, I called it. They kept the hill. And let's see. This has got to be Seattle. This looks like Seattle. And what's funny is they put like the Smith Tower. Chicago? What the heck? I'm getting all of these wrong. That's Chicago. And then Seattle. That is so funny. Okay, Dex, you know what's so funny? Well, I guess this is by the Space Needle. What is so funny is we spent billions of dollars to get rid of the roads like this. And this has Seattle totally backwards. This has like Soto with the Space Needle on the wrong side of the city. And they have a freeway that's like right in front of it, which was our famous skyline. We had this freeway that was in front of, on the waterfront. And then they spent millions of dollars digging a tunnel, sort of like what Elon does, and with a thing called Big Bertha. So they got rid of the viaduct. People had bumper stickers here for years and years and years, says save the viaduct, right? This predicts in the future we'll have more viaduct type things. This is kind of weird. Look in the background. There's like what are those? That looks like some sort of energy thing, like solar or something. Yeah, that AI is kind of stupid. And this is Los Angeles. This is pretty interesting. Let's see here. Basically, Los Angeles is a bunch of parking lots. And Boston. That looks like something out of Star Trek, out of Picard, one of that main cities. And that just looks like San Diego just straight up looks like another world. Like it's okay, so I guess this thing is just floating. So apparently we've discovered gravity in 20 years. How to defy gravity. So pretty interesting stuff. If you want to go look at them yourself and zoom in, you can go over to marfooglenews.com and you can go and check them out. I don't know how well it transfers over to your cell phones, but you can go and zoom in on over on the website. Too much concrete for me. I have to have trees and mountains. Nana of Montana. What's funny is like, yeah, the future is going to have even more. They'll just put a sparkle of trees all over everything. Propulsion. ILEA could be, I guess, to have like a jet or something. Never noticed that. Now it's because I'm at 60 frames or 125 now. I think I know how to fix that. And before we move on, by the way, thank you. Lots of folks over the weekend ended up joining and getting a Marfia badge. Thank you, and thank you. Michelle Hoffman, thank you for grabbing yourself a Marfia badge. Again, that will change at 1 month, 2 month, 6 month, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. Nickel Wise, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining the fam. Ray the Way, thank you. Laura Gittens, Shannon Scott, Michael McGonigal, Sean Penn, FG, Jennifer Jackson, Stephen McMahon, thank you. And some of the first people that got it, Ray Nomadic, See Here Think, Dangerous, Stephanie Minoz, John Frederick, Hijoles Frijoles. Everybody in the first month will have the certain ones. So after that, you'll know who has been here how long. That's one thing I think is cool about the badges, is you'll know how long somebody's been here by the badge. So because they change every month, or at least for the first 3 months, and then for the year, 6 months. So I think it's going to be cool to see like the people you could tell an OG like right away. All right, I wish we had these years ago, but they didn't do it. And DLive has had them for years, and it's just kind of sad that they just got them, especially for all of the already OG. All right, before we move on, I want to remind you guys, we do really recommend this because we think that this will save lives in the event of either an EMP or a solar event, like a Carrington level event, a CME, a coronal mass ejection, or an electromagnetic pulse. This is a device that can actually protect your vehicles, your cars, your trucks, your ATVs, your motorcycles, your boats, even your generators, gas-powered or solar in the case of the Flex 1500, and you can get one for your home. The home version needs to be wired in by an electrician, but once you do, it can protect everything within 250 feet of where it is wired in. So essentially everything you have that's plugged in within 250 feet of it will be protected. So if a major event happens, an EMP or multiple EMPs, because it will come in pulses, it will be able to ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your device or car or your house or your generator or even your ham radio. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. You will save $50 off per device, and you will help our channel at the same time. We're independent. We don't have a multi-channel network. We are on our own. So thank you everybody that does badges, supports us in any way. More so though, again, I would recommend if there's somebody else that does this as an affiliate, support who you like by doing it through that and get something that actually helps you or could save your life. Those are the most, those are the best ways I think to support a creator, whether it be myself or somebody else. Only get things that you really like or want. All right, and then Dex, can you talk about Texas sends third convoy of migrants to Kamala Harris D.C. home? No joke.
Well, yeah. Aside from what they're doing, the state is doing to push the position and share the problem that they personally feel in their state with others around the country, especially those who have the power to make change, like they're doing here. Aside from that, there's some stats in here that are pretty unfortunate, and one of those being that they're now over 6 times max capacity because of what has happened over the weekend and with the change in 42 and all that. So They have the images that you'll see here are coming from one of the centers that currently has something like 6,000 capacity, 6,000 people, but it only has a 1,000 capacity. They are completely overwhelmed now in all of the processing facilities, everything that they have set up. They have people, and the other interesting thing, for what it's worth, especially in these photos, make your own decisions, look at them yourself. It's overwhelmingly men, young men. So I don't know how to interpret that. I know a lot of people may look at that and think this, are these workers? Are these, potential people that could be engaged in combat or other things? Take that for what it's worth, but it doesn't look like it's, and maybe it's just because they separate too. I don't want to, misjudge the images, but even the article talks about the fact that in the examples they're looking at, it was mostly men being waited to be vetted, and the everything is just completely overflowing now and busting at the seams. So that's what's going on. I don't expect this to change anytime soon. I think the challenges that they have down there have only just gotten worse now with the change in the rules and the restrictions. And it doesn't seem like anything is going to, that doesn't seem like there's any significant change on the horizon that's going to make a major impact to stopping this type of migration that is just, flowing.
Why are they in half
at
the
an
room?
Amazing number right now?
Why are they?
Say that again?
Why are they pushed back like that? Obviously, it looks. It appears to be more, too, because they're literally packed in. It's almost like there's an invisible line in the. I don't think somebody was like, "Hey, group picture, everybody smile." Why are they pushed back on one side? I understand this is the bedding area, but you would think if you're packed like that, like sardines, that they would let people stand somewhere else or somewhere.
Yeah, I think in that picture it even says the capacity for that one room was 120 beds or 120 people, and it's 750 people are in there. Obviously, they're pushed back, maybe for the photo op, maybe that's all about PR. But nonetheless, that's still a lot of people. And if you were to spread them out, there's not enough room for those people to actually lay down.
Whoa, look at the tall guys. Okay, there's 3 tall guys. There's this one guy in the back, orange. He's got to be 7 feet tall. And then there's like another guy. Unless he's standing on a chair, this guy is, at least grab him for the NBA and then, and then we can talk about the rest. This is insanity. Look at this guy. This guy looks like straight up a soldier. This guy looks like he's out of a Van Damme movie. The guy in the white along the left of the pole. I just wonder, we've looked at the stats of what percentage could be, sleeper cells for terror groups from all over the world of the adversaries. There's probably we don't know what the majority is, right? The majority could probably be people that just want to start over, start new, want to get into the country and be citizens. But there could be hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are trying to do damage to the country, and this was the opportunity to do so. And speaking of do damage, apparently now they can grab your DNA from thin air. Privacy experts are worried. It says David Duffy, a wildlife geneticist at the University of Florida, just wanted a better way to track disease in sea turtles. Then he started finding human DNA everywhere he looked. Over the past decade, wildlife researchers have refined techniques for recovering environmental DNA, or eDNA, trace amounts of genetic material that all living things leave behind. A powerful and inexpensive tool for ecologists, eDNA is all over. Floating in the air or lingering in water, snow, honey, and even your cup of tea. Researchers have used this method to detect secretive wildlife populations and even to rediscover species thought to be extinct. The eDNA technology is also used in wastewater surveillance systems to monitor CV and other pathogens. But all along, scientists using eDNA were quietly recovering gobs and gobs of human DNA. To them, it's pollution, a sort of human genomic bycatch muddying their data. But what if someone set out to collect human eDNA on purpose? New DNA collection techniques like catnip for law enforcement officials. It says a law professor at New York University School of Law who specializes in the use of new technologies in the criminal legal system. The police have been quick to embrace unproven tools, like using DNA to create probability-based sketches of a suspect. You could probably see the error in that one. Think about if it just pops up a random image, but that random image just happens to look like you based on their system that wasn't proven, and then all of a sudden you're getting arrested for a murder that you were nowhere near. It says that could pose dilemmas for preservation of privacy and civil liberties, especially as technological advancement allows more information to be gathered from ever smaller eDNA samples. Dr. Duffy and his colleagues used a readily available and affordable technology to see how much information they could glean from human DNA gathered from the environment in a variety of circumstances, such as the outdoor waterways and the air inside of a building. The results of their research, published Monday in the journal, demonstrate that scientists can recover medical and ancestry information from minute fragments of human DNA lingering in the environment. Forensic ethicists and legal scholars say the Florida's team's findings increase the urgency for comprehensive genetic privacy regulations for researchers. It also highlights the imbalance of rules around such techniques in the United States. Now, one thing, Dex, I thought about this before the show. What if something like that Chinese balloon was doing something like this? Now, I only say that is because in 2019, before this stuff went down, there were stuff that came out, and there were things that came out that essentially said that they were messing around with specific kinds of editing, right? They would make a weapon that would only hurt certain people. Literally, this is something I shared, and we have even pieces from their country that show that they were caught doing this. Pretty much everybody is most likely doing this, but it's usually in secret because it is literally something that the entire world has a problem with. But imagine if they are able to not only collect through companies like 23andMe or Ancestry.com or whatever, they get all of this kind of data. What if they could literally fly above and collect human DNA? Just a thought, and I don't think that's what it is, but in the future, it may be. Dex, wouldn't that be crazy if they could do something like that?
Yeah. This would be crazy, and I don't think this is out of bounds at all for thinking that our investigations or our police or even our Fed investigators would start leveraging this eDNA or these techniques to actually pick DNA up out of the air from suspect. Bring somebody in and and talk to them, and you no longer have to ask them for a sample or you could just get a sample right there and they wouldn't even know. Or they can go to a scene and grab samples from anybody that was present at that scene. This is definitely, I'm sure the forensic world is going to be all over this as quickly as they can and deploy it as quickly as they can. And it certainly will pose some very, very strong privacy issues, as stated in this article. I certainly, will be very skeptical about how DNA collection is done, especially if it's done in a way that is unbeknownst to you.
Think about it. Even if they brought you in for questioning, all they would need to do is have you sit in the room for a minute, ask you a couple questions, and then you leave not thinking you're charged with anything, and then all of a sudden they've grabbed DNA from you. That's a trip. And Dex, you want to talk about the Philippines? And I was mentioning it earlier with Vietnam, the Philippines, and all of these other countries that are all kind of vying over the South China Sea and everything else. One of the key ways that if our United States was truly against China and trying to hold them off from world domination, which it seems like there's several people in our government trying to help them, if we are trying to hold them back, we have to be really good with their neighbors. If you are friends with their neighbors, if you get your troops and your bases around them, then it makes it much harder for them to control that whole area, including if they take Taiwan and possibly someday take Japan, Hawaii, and other places in the sea. Dex, can you explain what the message was?
Yeah, so they've, similar to the standoff, which is more physical in a specific location with boats. What the Philippines have done now that they've amped up this partnership with the U.S., they've done the drills, they've done a lot more. They've started to do more patrols, and they've even said the U.S. will join the patrols probably later this year, where our boats are going to be patrolling with them in this region. They now have gone out and laid buoys around certain areas in the Spratlys and placed their Filipino flags on them as if they're marking the territory. And these areas are within the 200-mile long stretch of the islands along the Whitsun Reef, where China moored hundreds of those maritime vessels back in 2021. If you remember that episode where we talked about them just lining up 100 vessels together, and they were all moored together. That was kind of a crazy event that they did. That is the area. That area, they went in and put buoys in with their flags on it, and are basically trying to display that it's their territory and dispute it against China. So this is this is heating up in the sense that it's not just words, it's not just treaties, it's not just rhetoric. It's like they're literally getting out now and patrolling. They're literally getting out and putting markers down. They now have a confrontation with Vietnam and China in a specific area that's disputed for their country. So I think we're going to see more as these types of skirmishes and these types of actions ramp up. That definitely takes it to a new level, in the sense that it used to just be we'd run a boat through and they would be mad that we sent a U.S. ship through, and they're like, you can't do that, and we're like, it's international waters, we can do what we want. We would get that every month, but now we're getting a lot of new actions that are really right in the face of Xi.
And they're going to continue. We've seen more. The countries that are truly against them have been doing all sorts of kind of rebellious acts. Richard Koschmeider, thank you for the super sticker, and I think you were the first one out doing a super sticker today. Thank you. Stephen McMahon says, Adam, the Vanguard Bank is an area of the South China Sea like the Grand Banks off of Nova Scotia. Don't think it has anything to do with finance. Stephen McMahon, thank you so much. And again, I actually didn't see that. I just started thinking with common sense on that one. So yeah, no, I am glad that I corrected myself on that before let it have some time there to sit and stew. I don't know about that whole area, so it makes me want to look more into just the geography of the area. It is going to be a very, very important area. So, but thank you for telling me that. And then Dex emailed you a UFO following a military radar plane this weekend in Fort Worth. It was crazy bananas. We will check. Where did you send it though? You emailed it. You can also send videos to marfugglenews.com/playmyvideo. And then Uper Viking, the only credit score I worry about is the one given to me by God. Man may break my body, but never my spirit. Much love, everyone. Uper Viking, thank you, and God bless you. Thank you. I appreciate your support, and thank you for supporting Independent. And then China's still conducting police activities in Germany. This should be an assumption by everyone, like they're going to stop. German security authorities believe that China is still conducting police activities on German soil, even though Beijing assured Berlin in February that it had ceased to do so, the German Foreign Interior Ministry said on Monday. The security authorities continue to assume that there are 2 so-called overseas police stations in Germany, a spokesman for their Interior Ministry said at the regular press conference. It said Berlin called on Beijing in November to shut down the extraterritorial police stations in the country, and the Chinese side got back to us at the beginning of February and said that these so-called service stations, as the Chinese side called them, had been closed. A foreign ministry spokesperson said, adding that Berlin was still in talks with Beijing to resolve the issue. One thing I wonder about, like with even Germany, France, and other countries, that it's like they've done actions that almost seem like they have sided with China. it reminds me of what's happening here. It's almost like some people in our government are actually helping China and their goals. I mean, look at Mark Milley, the head of our military, saying that he will call his counterpart in China and let them know if our president was going to send a surprise attack. Usually that's called treason or sedition or something, but it was called awesome by many people here in the United States when he did it. As far as it's like there's people that are trying to hurt the United States. Is it the same in Berlin? Is it the same in Germany? Is it the same in Australia, in Europe, or in London? I think so. I think there's people on the payroll in every country. How did they make these police stations in almost all of the NATO countries be able to get away with this without being cited for spying? I mean, if these people are truly reporting back to China, if they are, then they should be arrested. Just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, basically they say that this is a new thing that they added, is that they're not exactly fixed location offices, but mobile facilities. So they could be rolling around in vans.
Yeah, I suspect there's more. The fact that we only know about the ones that were physical locations and the ones that were reported on. How about the ones that haven't been discovered yet? And how about, like it says, and if they're mobile, they could be all over the place. And what is really going on? Is this really for citizens, or is there something more nefarious happening here? What if it is, organizing an infiltration across countries slowly over time and planting and building up some sort of offense against an adversary? You do it slowly, you do it small, and you do it in an undetected way. Obviously, it's getting detected at the moment, but even this doesn't seem to be the full scale of what may actually be happening.
Whoops, sorry. One China, get used to it. Who said that? What do you mean by one China? Like one China, Taiwan, and are you in support of China taking Taiwan back? And that's okay to have a different view, but it makes me think that 1 million man army. How far in the corners of the internet do they roam? And before we move on, make sure to go over to Check Out Energy. This is 100% my absolute recommendation for solar generators. If you do not have a generator at all, you may want to look at both and see which one would be better for you, either gas or solar. If it was a dream world, you would have both. The great part about solar generators is that they are silent. They make no sound, and you can get unlimited power from the sun. If you get a package, highly recommend getting a package with the solar panels. But of course, if you do have solar panels already, this isn't hard. A lot of people think it's very confusing. These are the easiest things in the world to use. You have solar panels, you have one cord that goes into the main unit, and then it's getting power from the sun. That's it. You don't need anything external. You don't have to be any kind of smarts to put this together. You set it down, you plug a cord into it, you put them out in the sun. That's it. That's how easy it is. If you have multiple solar panels, then it basically works like a daisy chain, and you connect them together. That great part about that is this one, the Flex 1500, not only can be expanded, so you can expand it over time and get batteries. Like Legos, they actually stack right underneath. There's no external cords going between the battery and the unit. The input and the output is on the bottom and the top. So you can literally just stack them. You can stack up to 5 high. And I think the only reason they say 5 high is because at that point it's so heavy you can't lift. But you can chain then again up to 96 batteries. So it's really, really awesome. This has already saved our butts. I have a Flex with 2 batteries. I actually did perfectly fine with just a Flex and 1 battery every time our power went out. And then I have 2 X2s that I dual link. The X2s are great, but I know that if this was a long-term thing and if I wanted a whole house unit, I would most likely not get the X2 for like a home UPS system. I would get a Flex. The X2 is a little bit different. It's all built in one, but it's also using the lithium ion phosphate technology. So it will last an extremely long time. It's newer technology as far as it's a different technology. and it can last more charge cycles. As far as this one, you could use this and basically have it from full to empty every single day and use it every single day for 16 years, and it will still have 80% of its battery capacity. That's huge in the world of lithium ion as far as being able to use it all of that time and to still have as much as you do in fact, since they're more than 1,000 watt hours, you would still have about as much as a single flex battery. So these are awesome. In general, they're modular. They can be changed to your liking. They actually have UPS edition now with the Flex UPS adder. So make sure to go check them out. marfuglenews.com/energy. This is one of the baddest systems out there. It is really something quite amazing, and it will save your butt in a power outage or in SHTF. So go to marfuglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Thank you guys for doing so. It helps us, and you get a special discount at the same time. Thank you. Dex, chilling photo shows 18 Russian nuke bombers near NATO border as Putin threatens UK. I think people need to start waking up and having a basic plan. If you look at this photo, it will talk about exactly what's going on here. Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, this is this is amazing. So, it's a big deal. There's like 18 of these. They've been repositioned. We talked about them. They were saying they were going to move some certain things. They moved a few things into Belarus at one point and got them up against Poland. Now these are in, I think it's called the Olenia Air Base, which is right there up against now Finland. And if you see the pictures, they're showing you what the images were that were captured. 18 planes, all nuclear capable. And two of them are the Tu-160s, which are designed to actually strike enemy targets in remote areas. So they have much longer range on their strike capabilities. I think they're called the Blackjacks by NATO. The other ones are the Tu-95s, and they're known as the Bears, I believe. So this is all recent. This is within the last week. These pictures were taken. So this is a new revelation, I guess, as far as being able to see what action they've actually done, what steps they're taking. And if they're positioning this, on one hand you would say, yeah, now that Finland joined NATO, you would expect them to have a response, but at the same time we've got this heated conflict going on. It's getting the progress isn't necessarily happening on either side. It seems like it's kind of stuck. There's always this push back and forth, but we're also seeing a lot more of the equipment coming in from the West into UKR, which is allowing them to strike deeper. And we'll talk a little later about some of the different events that have happened. Some of them into Russia, but then even some big ones from Russia hitting some of the supplies in UKR over the weekend. So this is not a good sign, but this is just the facts. Like the pictures, tell us what they were able to find and see at this base, and this is all new positioning.
And as far as, when you have all of the different kind of events that have happened over the last week, this is something no one wants to see as far as them loading up at the borders. Finland, we know that there's events going on. We also know this from Fugel Fam. They have said that Finland is preparing some sort of massive defensive system other than the fence that they are now public. They've been digging trenches in all of the border countries. They're preparing for a World War III scenario, but yet people still think that a World War III will not happen. They think, it's just in case. The amount of changes that they're making to the borders is pretty insane. So I think it's better to be a realist and to be prepared for a potential event. It's, don't go nuts. Don't sell your house and live in a bunker, but you may want to build one as a backup if you have the ability, or at least know where one is. Otherwise, have a family plan as far as where you're going to meet, a backup plan for where you're going to meet, because you may not be able to get somewhere. And that's not, the thing is if you prepare for something like that, it will not only just do well for, say, SHTF. If there's a major earthquake or a tsunami, if you're on the West Coast, if you have some sort of volcano nearby go off. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we've had all of the above here in the Northwest. Or if you've had tornadoes or anything else, then you should have a backup plan. People that live with storms and hurricanes and tornadoes nearby, they all already do this. A lot of people in the Fugel fam already do this, but there's some out there that really need to consider it. And I'm not saying that the whole end of the world is coming. What I'm saying is it is definitely about to change drastically, and people need to wake up. And I firmly believe that this is going to go down. And unfortunately, not everybody, almost no one, has our interests in their best interest. So if you are a civilian like me and you know what's going on, then you will realize they're not going to come help us. In fact, even the people that you think are going to protect you are most likely going to leave their posts and go protect their own family. They're going to get their mothers and grandmas out of nursing homes, and they're going to let us fend for ourselves. So, and if it's above that, then it's martial law, and that's even worse. So anybody who's lived through a martial law situation knows, like able-bodied who was in martial law at Hurricane Katrina. Obviously, even though we have a department dedicated to absolutely everything, they still don't know what the heck they're doing. Took 4 days to get water to the Superdome. That's a perfect example of how much they are not prepared for big things. And then Russian mega sub with Apocalypse Poseidon torpedo spotted in chilling satellite pics amid nuclear test fire fears. So with this, and it says satellites have spotted Russia's massive mega submarine, which is believed to be armed with the Vladimir Putin's new weapon of the apocalypse drone nuclear torpedoes. NATO reportedly issued a warning as they have lost track of the Belgorod, a 604 feet, 30,000-ton nuclear-powered submarine, as fears loom that Vlad could detonate a nuke in a show of force to the west over UKR. Now, Dex, how did they lose something this big? Well, I mean, it can go underwater, but now, so it is in action right now. That means it is literally floating around somewhere.
That's correct. And I think the big fear that they've been suspecting that there's going to be a test at some point, and now they're suspecting that maybe the Belgorod is what the test will be. And that's part of the warning is, or part of the fear is this going to be the test? Are they going to use the Poseidon and test it somewhere up in the Arctic or on some other shore or even out in the middle of the ocean? This is not just designed, we talk about the extreme. The extreme is you put it on the shore, you run a radioactive tsunami up onto land. But at the same time, the other perfectly normal use for this is to actually do the same thing out in the middle of the ocean and just overwhelm a fleet of ships with a massive wave and powerful shock that takes them down, turns them over, floods them, fills them up, whatever. That is the question. Like, does this thing really exist? I mean, they've talked about it, they've shown specs on it, we've never seen it launched or tested, and not that we've had a lot of nuke tests in recent years outside of I think Kim over in K is probably the most recent tests we've actually seen. But I think that's kind of the scary part about this is, like, if they use this to do a test and they've never tested it before, and even though it's in production, that could be pretty ominous to see what comes out of it. Now, the other interesting thing is this actual sub, it's got many different purposes. I mean, obviously it was retrofitted to carry this, but this specific sub is designed to actually launch other subs. It was specifically designed for covert operations, having secret compartments to launch mini subs and drones for covert sabotage and spying operations, such as cutting undersea cables, alongside having nuclear weapons on it as well. So they use this sub to retrofit and build in this Poseidon. The Poseidon is a drone. It goes about 80 miles per hour, to convert it to what we're familiar with, through the water. It can linger, it can go to a place, it can hang out, and then it can continue traveling and then get where it needs to get to, and then it can obviously detonate. So a lot is a lot of attention is paid to this particular sub because it's I think the only one that really can do this right now. They're supposed to be building more that are designed to carry the Poseidon, but right now this is the one. The Belgorod is the one that they like to keep an eye on. So when they lose visibility on it, even though they've recently had some images in the satellite images, and I think we've already covered some of those from the past, but now NATO issuing a warning that they've lost track of it is, the fact that they're issuing that as a warning in and of itself is interesting, to say the least, especially given the fact that we're sort of on hold waiting for a test from Vlad.
And people are probably wondering why I'm pulling up this building. This is an 8-story building. Now, it's probably bigger given the floors and everything, but just in general, the Belgorod, the Poseidon torpedo just by itself is 80 feet long. That's what this shows it as, 79 feet as far as the Belgorod. So this is an 8-story building. Imagine a torpedo that's almost as tall as this. Even if it was half this tall at this length, that is insanity. So it is a big, big weapon. I mean, that is much bigger. How long is a freaking bus? I mean, that's like that's a school bus or 2 school buses back to back. Just
it's almost a sub in and of itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. Okay, so a big long bus, a short bus is 20 feet, a long bus is 45 feet. This is essentially 2 buses. That's insane. If you can imagine something that big flying underwater, then hitting and creating a nuclear blast that would cause a tsunami. People don't want to think about this. People get so offended by talking about this. They think it's just so over the top, apocalyptic and fear-mongering. This generation has not seen human beings kill millions of people yet. Anybody that lived through World War II knows what it's like to have an actual conflict that everybody knows somebody that was lost to it. In World War I as well. I mean, like, sadly, we're overdue for a world conflict like this. Many of my friends and peers on even YouTube, they believe this is the 4th turning, that this is going to be a cycle. It's a cyclical thing, and it's not the end of the world. It's the start of a new one. And unfortunately, it's not going to be anything like the old one, and it won't even be recognizable. So unfortunately, this is happening whether people like it or not. And then Russia says it scrambled jet to stop French and German patrol. And it says flights entering Russian airspace. Dex, can you cover this?
So we always cover, and we will later, about our scrambles, and we do them quite often because they come across, and NATO has scrambled numerous times. But this time, we're actually able to cover from the other side. We don't always get this information, but apparently this came out from the Defense Ministry, and they said that they had to scramble jets Monday to prevent both French and German patrol aircraft from entering its airspace over the Baltic Sea after it detected them flying towards Russia. Now, I don't know that those jets actually stopped them in a sense, because they probably weren't actually going to cross over. It's not something we would normally do. We would fly near, we would fly close, we would get as close as we can legally and take as many pictures as we can, and we would show our forces just like they do. They do that in Alaska all the time. They do it. They've done it numerous times, and we've done it numerous times throughout this conflict in UKR. But just, it's not that often. Like we've heard about the drone when the drone went down, but that was because the drone went down. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't have heard much about that incident. We just don't typically get the other side on this story. So in this particular case, they were targeting Germany and French planes that were in the area. They were obviously there for NATO, and Russia escorted them or got to them and did what they did to prevent them from going into their territory.
So essentially, there's all of Europe is they're saying that they're scrambling. We've had like 16 different Russian stories where they scramble to chase them off. And now this one again says that it's reverse. It's Russia actually chasing off the French and Germans. And then 6 Russian aircraft intercepted near Alaska airspace. This is more normal, but this is kind of crazy because usually it's 1 or 2. 6 Russian aircraft were near Alaska during U.S. military training exercises. According to NORAD, it says that the North American Aerospace Defense Command released a statement Saturday saying it had intercepted 6 Russian aircraft operating off the coast of Alaska. Real quick, Nan of Montana, good night. Thank you so much. And I hope you watched the replay of the last couple stories here because there is some good stuff. So I don't know if you're still here, but if you hang out 2 more articles, you'll get really the most important stuff. But good night, and thank you so much for your support. And thank you, Adam, Dex Mods, and always for having a great show. Take care all, and God bless. And then Linda Sullivan, Adam, you will be healed. Glory to God. God is great always. Thank you, Linda, and God bless you. Appreciate that. But apparently, so NORAD saying that it not only intercepted 6 Russian aircraft in a press release about Thursday's incident, NORAD said that it detected, tracked, positively identified, and intercepted 6 Russian aircraft operating in and near the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone. Russian aircraft remained in international airspace and did not enter American or Canadian sovereign airspace. The statement added that these flights occurred as several planned large-scale U.S. military training exercises are going on in Alaska. So, Dex, you know what's crazy is there are tons of large-scale drills there, which we now know, but no one really this wasn't really talked about much. And, most of these drills are publicized. This one was really quiet. Yet other Fugel family members said that the Alaska drills are gigantic. So I don't think we even covered the Alaska drills.
Yeah, I think we did. We announced when it was announced that it was happening, but there was not much talk about it after that. They were pretty quiet on it for sure. And like you said, a lot of people don't talk about what goes on in Alaska. It's just not picked up and shared. They don't put out press statements as often from the military on that as say they did the Philippines, which was big. They did, numerous stories about the drills in the Philippines and obviously the stuff in Europe. But what happens up there doesn't get talked about nearly as much. But this is interesting because it's multiple aircraft. In this case, there were Tu-95 boomers and Su-35 fighters, but also a tanker. I don't think, and all the times we've covered the like you said, it's typically 1 or 2 planes in, the Alaska area that we run off. And it's typically like a Tu-95. It might be a fighter, but it's usually, either a reconnaissance plane or a nuclear type plane that's just doing its traditional, I'm here, look at me kind of maneuvers. This time it was a lot more. And they were up with tankers, meaning they were planning to stay up for a while. So kind of interesting and different, I guess, from what we typically report on out of there.
Well, so did they, and Russia's on the other side of the ocean. Did they bring this refueler tanker? Will this be a part of a much, much bigger fleet? Were they practicing certain things? Like, I just wonder what they were doing here. I mean, that's a small fleet. A small squadron, I guess you would call it. So what were they doing there? I wonder. Or did they turn one of these tankers into some sort of surveillance? I mean, given it's Russia, they probably tried to utilize planes they already had. They could turn one of these and put some domes on it and turn it into a surveillance plane to see what we're doing in Alaska. And, of course, F-16s will be the focus of UKR pilot training in UK. More details have emerged about the kind of fighter pilot training being provided to UKR by the United Kingdom, which we now know is specifically geared towards helping those aviators convert onto the F-16. This should help fulfill Kiev's long-standing ambition of obtaining the fourth-generation Western-made fighter jets. Well, the leaders of UKR and the United Kingdom have also discussed a possible coalition of jets for the UKR Air Force as means of making that more achievable. Look at this. So if you don't know, they were asking for F-16s, and they will get F-16s. And, of course, everything they have asked for, they have gotten. It's almost looking like Zelensky's in charge, but we know he's not. This is all just dog and pony show, and this is all, it's played out exactly how they want it to play out. The announcement came as UKR President Vladimir Zelensky met Prime Minister Rishi Sunak today at the British leader's country residence at Shakur's in England. This is the guy's house. Gosh, look at that. Just grass for days. Look at that. What a dream to that's the dream right there. Have land like that, right? That's where these people sit and drink tea, and it's straight out of a movie. Regarding the coalition of jets, Zelensky said that I see that in the closest time you will hear some, I think, very important decisions, but we have to work a little bit more on it, Zelensky said. And I think he said it like this. I see that in the closest time you will hear some, I think, very important decisions, but we have to work a little bit more on it. That was a pretty good accent. I think I did a pretty good job. In a statement, meanwhile, the UK government said that it would begin a flying training program for UKR student pilots in the coming week. This summer, we will commence an elementary flying phase for cohorts of UKR pilots to learn basic training. So, Dex, you called it. Everybody called it. Not only are they going to be getting F-16s, they're putting their focus on it. They're going to be changing over to it. Obviously, everything they've asked for, they get.
It's no surprise, and obviously they're not going to invest in the time and effort to train their pilots on how to fly them if they don't have plans on getting them to them. So as much as we say no, we're not sending them. I know the U.S. even we covered this, I think, in Overflow last week. The U.S. was like worried about our high tech and secret information that's on our F-16s and that technology being retrieved by Russia should UKR get them and they get downed or whatever. So even all that aside, don't kid yourself. They're gonna get them. They're going to get them. They're not training these people if they weren't going to get them. So they'll make all the stories up about, oh, they don't need them, and then one day they're going to say, oh, guess what, we're sending a whole fleet of F-16s over, just like every other thing they've asked for, they've gotten.
I'm glad most of you got that. Somebody said, I just thought he had a really stuffy nose. No, that's... Anyways, before we move on, just remember, if you do want to get long-term survival food, we have a really good reference for that. If you go through this, you will actually get a huge discount or a special package with a ton of freebies. Go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. And of course, you can get a 3-month supply of freeze-dried food that will not only last 25 plus years, but it will also be packed and ready to go, so you can store it wherever you need to, and you'll have that much just ready to go. They also have, of course, 72-hour kits for your go bags. They have any kind of denomination of food that you want. The 3-month is great because if you get it in the bulk, then you definitely save a whole lot of money. It is about half or even more than half less than some of their competitors. There's a lot of different great companies out there, but the one thing I like about this is that it is very affordable and it definitely gets the most for your dollar. You can easily, get yourself a few months if you save up, even just for a couple weeks at a time, a little bit. Within a year, you could have 3 months of extra food, and that's really accessible to almost everyone. So again, marfooglenews.com/prep. Make sure to go check out all of the other things that you see there, or you can just get a little bit at a time. I know somebody that gets basically a one meal at a time, and they just keep building it. And of course, they last 25 years. So It's a great thing. The price of freeze-dried food has skyrocketed in the last 3 years. It's actually tripled. So if it happens again in 3 years from now, when it's 3 times the price, you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf, and you will have everything set. Just add water and cook, and then you'll get most of the flavor back. That's what's great about freeze-drying. You keep a little bit more flavor than you do with dehydration, but again, the longevity is great on it. And then that's marfugglenews.com/prep. And then terrifying moment, fireball erupts into mushroom cloud over UKR as Russia attacks. So there's been a lot of back and forth attacks that, frankly, Twitter has a lot of videos. We don't know what's real and what's fake anymore, but there's been massive amounts of videos on both sides. Crazy fires, crazy strikes. And of course, we just talked about last week how they now evacuated the civilians from Zaporizhia. They have hit different infrastructure. And it says heart-wrenching footage shows the moment that a huge fireball erupts over UKR along with thick smoke cloud after Russia struck once more. The Kremlin is to have sent 21 drones to attack the city of Kamelinsky, with 4 managing to reach their target. It highlights that the latest big by Vladimir Putin to destroy UKR ammunition before Vladimir Zelensky orders his expected counteroffensive. So there's a lot of back and forth on this. People said that it already started. We just covered things a couple days ago saying, oh, they're lying. They've actually already started this huge counteroffensive. And this sounds more like they're trying to knock out the counteroffensive before it happens. Dex, we're hearing conflicting reports whether they are starting it already or if it's still waiting. And then, of course, they were specifically hitting ammunition dumps and things like this.
Well, these explosions, and they were caught on video. I think there's at least one. Actually, there's probably 3 images in this article. You scroll down, you can see them. These are massive. So, on one hand, you would wonder, is it some sort of weapon that's doing that, or is the side coming from? Is the Russian narrative correct? Did they really hit a depot, a stash and a cache of munitions? Because there was 2 massive mushroom cloud explosions that happened back to back in this town, but UKR turned around and said no, there was no significant losses to their armed forces and their equipment, but they did say there was 21 casualties. So that's as far as UKR would report about the actual outcome of it. But a lot of people in the area reported that the educational, medical institutions, administrative buildings, industrial facilities, high-rise buildings, as well as private residences that were all around that area were all damaged because this was such a massive blast. And it's akin to the massive blast that we reported in Crimea, and both in Crimea and the other one that was alongside of the bridge we showed, I think, last week, where UKR had reached in and caused significant damage to locations that would have a significantly sized event. In those cases, it produced huge fires. But in this case, from Russia, these explosions were pretty massive. Now, on the flip side, they sent 21 and only 4 made it through. Ideally, you'd want 0 to make it through, but if Vlad is admitting he sent 21 and only 4 made it through, then that means they did take down quite a bit on the way in. So something was working, unless all of those drones were just not operational or did not perform as they were supposed to. But yeah, this is, it's really difficult when this information coming from over there, because you get it from 2 different sides. Information's left out. It's always spun or ganded up in favor of whoever's talking. So the best we can do is, look at it, take it with a grain of salt. Pictures are worth 1,000 words. Videos worth even more.
Well, so
is
the video available
in this day?
Is the video available? Because this is the same picture. It's actually 3 of the same pictures. Did you see that?
So there, I don't know if it's in the article or not, but I'll go find one and I'll put it on our website.
So
you guys
if you look at this, there's a
few of them out there.
This picture right here. At least these 2 are the same. So if you notice, you see this, it almost looks like a hand reaching out of it. I almost see like an elephant type thing. But if you look, they just added contrast and put the same picture again. You see that? You see the same hand. It's just more contrast. You even have the tree down in the bottom right-hand corner. See? And the same thing, only they changed the coloring of it. So that may have been just because they only had one thing, so they framed it and tried to add more to it. Or this could have populated wrong in my browser, because this is the same exact picture. They just added contrast. But as far as this big one, what's crazy about it is you see two different areas. It almost looks like tornadoes of fire. It's like one here, and then they meet and they have this cloud in the middle and then a super big cloud outside of it. But yeah, I'll have to watch. I haven't seen the video yet, so Dex, go ahead.
I was just going to say I put it on the website as well.
Okay, so you guys can go check out the video. I wonder if do we know if is there like a Beirut type boom explosion that came out of this? If this was this big and it's this close to a city, I'm sure, you would see hundreds of people would have got this on video, or at least a couple.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of video out there.
Those are 10 times the size of this huge apartment building. That's just giant.
Yeah, take a look. I think you may be able to show it too, or at least show some screenshots of it. I put it in screener if you want.
Okay. Either way, and this is, this is in UKR on their side. So this is, that's a massive strike.
Another way to think of it is that there goes all of our money up in smoke, because if it's hitting their equipment and their munitions, you know where all that came from. So.
Oh, somebody made a point. Depleted uranium. Think about that. As if they were storing the depleted uranium there, and then Russia hit it before they used it. That's gonna bite them in the butt. But who knows? In crazy coincidence, 2 earthquakes occur 1 second apart on different faults, jostling San Diego County. In crazy coincidence? Are they really calling it a coincidence? It's kind of hard. That sounds more like a antipode. Is that what Dutch Sense calls it? A 3.4 Temblor. And by the way, I've had this argument like a couple years ago when I started seeing Temblor instead of tremor. Temblor has been used for years, and there were so many people that agree with me that they were like, where did Temblor come from? Like it was like a Mandela effect, because everybody uses Temblor. I understand that there's many words in the English language, but I only saw this for the first time a few years ago, and once I saw it, it was like everybody used the word Temblor. Southeast of Jamul, and a 3.6 shaker, so they just wanted to do synonyms, right? East southeast of Campo struck at 5:13 p.m. Sunday on different faults. See, they're saying this is a coincidence. They're again further away. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think something bigger is going on underneath. It says a pair of small earthquakes occurred 1 second apart late Sunday on different fault systems south of the U.S.-Mexico border, producing light shaking in areas of San Diego County, according to the USGS. That's absolutely crazy, said Tom Rockwell, a seismologist at San Diego State University. It's very random that quakes on separate faults happen at about the same time. The first quake was a 3.4 Temblor that hit at 5:13 p.m. about 5 miles southwest of Tecate, Mexico, and 15 miles west southwest of Campo. It was immediately followed by a 3.6 quake about 23 miles west southwest of Progreso, Mexico, and 31 miles. So these were 15 miles apart. Sounds to me like something big, way bigger is happening underneath. But that's just my thoughts on it. Small quakes regularly occur in and around U.S.-Mexico border, but they rarely lead to large events, Rockwell said. What do you guys think? A lot of you follow Dutch Sense, and probably some of you do what Dutch Sense does because he's taught his viewers on how to do it. What do you think about this as far as, do you think there was something bigger there or just a strange coincidence? And then U.S. Virgin Islands issued subpoena to Elon Musk in the Jeffrey EpiPen case. The U.S. Virgin Islands issued a subpoena to Tesla boss Elon Musk seeking documents as part of the government's lawsuit against J.P. Morgan Chase over the trafficking by the bank's longtime customer Jeffrey EpiPen, a court filing revealed on Monday. It said that filing said that the Virgin Islands has tried since late April to serve Musk with the subpoena, which has issued because of EpiPen may have referred or attempted to refer Musk as a client to JP Morgan. What? So he might have been like, "Oh no, come over here. You gotta bank with JP. Come on over." So that's not good. USVI hired an investigative firm to try to locate an address for Musk and has also contacted one of the CEO's lawyer, who in the past has waived the requirement of him being personally served with legal documents in past federal cases, according to the filing in U.S. District Court in Manhattan. If a government contacted Mr. Musk's counsel via email, he would ask if he would be authorized to accept service on Mr. Musk's behalf in this matter, but did not receive a response confirming or denying his authority, the filing said. So, what's crazy, I mean, have they tried Twitter? It's like, this is, everybody is connected to EpiPen. Everyone who has a big bank account is connected with EpiPen in some way. It's absolutely nuts. Dex, obviously, there's also all of the media wants to somehow, punch Elon in the face with whatever they can. But this is an actual thing. They don't even know where he lives. Doesn't he live in like a 50 square foot camper or something? One of those Elon boxes?
Yeah, but I think in reality, he probably lives in his private jet, because it seems like he's probably flying all over the place all the time, meeting with people. I think he just met with Macron. So, I'm surprised they didn't show up there and try to, serve him on the street as he was walking in. And looking all disheveled from a long night of partying, according to the reports. But yes, you would think he's easy to find, but apparently he's not. Apparently they're now taking it to the next level, where they're going to ask for public service where they can post ads, which is what they were doing. Also, we reported the same thing is going on with one of the founders of the OOG, Larry. That's happened as well. They're trying to locate him, can't find him, and of course now it's to the point where everybody says he's missing, even though he's not. They're just using it as a headline, but they can't serve him, so they're having to use alternate methods, which the courts will allow for. If you go through numerous steps to try to serve someone, there are other ways they can be served. Usually it requires running an ad in a publication so many times, trying to announce the service. And then once that's been fulfilled, then they can say, hey, we've done our duty to try to serve them. Now we can move forward.
I think it's odd that he met with Macron. Macron just met with Xi just a month ago or so. And right after Xi met with Macron says we're going to distance ourselves from the U.S. France also adheres to the one China policy, which that's a big flag right there. It's like France is Macron and it's like you see the tight connections, right? They're talking. France did the same thing that China did with their retirees. I mean, they changed the age. That was something that China just did. It's like, I think France is going to switch sides. What do you guys think? Do you think that if there's a World War III, that France will be on our side? I mean, everybody knows, like, the long time, the French hate the Americans. But really, especially since we screwed them over on that submarine deal with Australia, they were pretty pissed off at us. But do they have reason to switch sides? I don't know. Maybe that's why there's a ghost city with the Eiffel Tower in China. Because when everything goes to crap and everything's blown up, Macron and all of his family and his buddies will be able to go to the ghost city and live out the rest of their life in an area that reminds them of home. Who knows? Dex, what do you think of Macron? I think that I don't think he's on our side.
I think he's showboating. I think he's trying to wear bigger britches than he really does. And he's obviously not doing a great job in his country if everybody, if millions and millions of people are out in the street. Then, I think he needs to worry about that before, trying to be the savior of the, global problems and jumping out in front, kind of like Xi is trying to.
Skim Dog says they're still angry about the whole freedom fries thing. That was for years. They reference that in like every movie. America, stupid Americans. That was a pretty good one. That was as good as my my Zelensky accent. All right. Thank you, by the way. Thank you guys, those of you who supported over on DLive. Beer Juice. We have beer juice. Thank you several times. And you gifted out badges to Lacey May. Carrie Ray, thank you. Hammer Guy 35. MC Dirty Work. Carrie Ray, thank you. Scooby-Doo Do-Right. Bug Nana, thank you. Gem, thank you. So nice to see the same faces here so long. Biblical Smackdown, thank you for the diamond. And thank you, Chance. Thank you, Hammer Guy, for gifting out badges as well. You actually gave one to one of our mods, Chance. Thank you. And Carrie Onandan, thank you. Kelly ZC3CD, thank you so much for the super thanks on the show, on our last show. And then, of course, new members, thank you. And thank you, Sean, a.k.a. Red. Carrie Onandan, thank you for joining as well. Blue Boy 1968 just joined. Gunslinger 67 just joined. Neil Nelson just got a badge. Stealth Mode just got a badge. Michelle Hoffman and Nickelwise, thank you. I think it's gonna be cool to see all the gold badges 4 years from now, and you'll be able to tell the OGs. Thank you, I appreciate you, and yeah, thank you so much. Nana of Montana, good night, y'all. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Uper Viking. Thank you, Crazy Bananas. Thank you, and Gunslinger. Thank you. Z-Pack is your friend, Adam. Thanks for all you do, and have a coffee on me. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Olga Tiran with the super sticker. Thank you as well. I appreciate that. And then Blue Boy 1968. That explosion from UKR looks like a battlefield tactical nuke. I have to see the video. I didn't get a chance to see the video beforehand, but I will look. I don't know what a tactical... Everybody says that the Moab and the Foab, the father of all booms and then the mother of all bombs, looks a lot like a tactical nuke. But it's just a really big conventional. So, I don't know. Military folks, if you have seen a lot of explosions in your life, go look at that video and you tell me what you think. And then if you've watched this far in the show, make sure to comment that freedom fries are awesome. Yes, freedom fries are awesome. And then I'll know that you watched all the way through. Dex, let's go to the web only. We've got a lot of great stuff there.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting things happening in addition to what we typically cover in the overflow. For those of you that are new, what I'm going to talk about, head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for today's show, or open up the show notes link down below in the description. It's even easier. Just click that. It'll take you to this webpage with all the news we just talked about, all the links, the sources to everything, tweets, the video I mentioned earlier that we put on the webpage. It's there as well. But you're going to find this orange bar called overflow, and this is the rest of the story. So everything else that didn't make it into the show, we didn't have enough time to cover, or sometimes it's controversial topics, and sometimes it's just additive, additional content that goes along with what we've already covered. So it's all there. We put it together for you every night. Some things that are happening. There was some staff members that were assaulted from the United States Congress. And it was happened in an office. The congressperson was not there, but that story is rather interesting. What happened there? Get this: they're talking about taking chocolate milk away from school cafeterias. I don't know. When I was in public school, that was like the best thing at the lunch line was getting the chocolate milk. I mean, everything else was just bleh, but at least you had your chocolate milk to rely on. But that's just me. I hope it doesn't go away for the rest of the kids. But they're battling sugar, and I think they really probably ought to look at the grocery store checkout line before they're worried about chocolate milk. But anyway, lots of other things going on. They're talking about stuff with travel. There's some ancient tablets found that predate Hebrew inscriptions. So if you're into that kind of thing, some new findings. Also some new findings in stained glass that they were saying could question certain things around the history of religion. So go check that out if you're interested. There's updates on Bob Lee. If you don't remember who Bob Lee is, he's that Cash App CEO that was murdered on the streets in San Francisco. There's more revelations that have come out about his past and what probably led up to that. There's some updates with the three-letter agency, both on what they've been doing in some of their videos, but also even the probe that came out against T-Man and how it's now ended. And then, of course, that all leads into a lot of the political coverage that we have here. So there's some of that going on, especially around DeSantis and others, and even Giuliani. So that covered on the website. We do have additional coverage around UKR and what's happening there from some of the different events going on, both with Wagner as well as alleged troops in certain areas and certain deployments. So all that's updated as well. And then, of course, we mentioned earlier in the show about Elon going to meet with Macron. And of course, they had to write a really nasty article about how he had to sleep in the car. He looked disheveled after a night of partying, or what looked like a night of partying, before he goes to meet with Macron. But nonetheless, I mean, the guy's got 4 jobs and he works every hour of the day, it seems like. So got to give him some credit for jet setting around the world. And I can't imagine he's got to look fresh everywhere he goes if he's going to actually work that hard. It seems like all the other rich elite don't work that hard. They just sit around and pontificate. This guy actually seems to be getting out into a lot of these companies that he owns, as well as getting involved in lots of other things. So not a rah-rah for him or a poo-poo for him, but definitely he is a different character from a lot of the other elites that we look at. Hey, and a woman bought a abandoned home in Italy. So if you guys are looking for property and you want to get out of the country, she bought it for $3.30. Apparently there's an issue in certain villages in Italy where these are rural locations where there's nobody there anymore, and they're trying to get population back. So they've got these really ridiculously low prices on housing units. And so this woman, a California woman, bought 3 abandoned houses in a Sicilian village for $3.30. Imagine that. So also some updates with Miller and the whole beer saga, even though, yes, Miller, not Bud, but Miller, they're in the news. So go check it out. It's all on the website, marfooglenews.com. Click on the thumbnail for today's show. Scroll down till you see this overflow badge, and you'll see the rest of the story. Also, you can click the show notes link. It's down below in the description.
Which I remember there were so many articles about the Bud Light thing. Not, it is very bad. They admitted it's bad, but these things never really last. They never, these things never go anywhere. They usually last about a week and then they're gone. It's been months, and I still see every aisle. It's like Bud Light is absolutely full. I have even talked to somebody I know who is the manager of a major, I don't know if it's everywhere, but Safeway. It's most places on the West Coast. And they said that they were asked by their manager to put less Bud Light out. So when it got finally empty, they would only put out a few at a time to make it appear like it was being bought, which I thought was pretty funny. I don't know if that is from Bud Light. I'm not going to say that because who knows? They could say that's not from corporate, but from their actual store. Maybe they're doing that to sell more of it because they also need to get rid of it and make it look like, that thing's fake. Nobody's doing it. But they were literally asked to only put out a few so it looks empty, when in reality, the entire back of the store is full, and they have asked to not be delivered any new Bud Light. So the Bud Light truck is now, for the first time in, from what they said, 25 years, being asked not to stop there. So I believe it 100%. I believe her absolutely. And I think that it's just telling, like, And this is my area is very the opposite of conservative. So that says a lot. So I'm kind of a duck out here with my views. So I'm actually pretty surprised by that, not surprised at the same time. What does the Bud Light section look like at your store? Is it empty? Is it full? Do they have huge displays of it everywhere around the store? Because I've also seen that, where they have huge, those fancy setups where they do all sorts of things with the cases to make it look like something, which they probably pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to have the stores do. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your support. Thank you as well to everybody that did supers. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for everybody that joined being a member and got the Marfia badge. I appreciate you guys. And again, thank you. Linda Sullivan, Nana of Montana. I will not, Nana, I don't remember where the Nana of Montana song is, but I'm not going to do a shoutra tonight, but either way, I'll do a song for you tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. It hurts too much to do that right now. So thank you guys, and I appreciate you. Dex, thank you so much.
Much love, brother. Great job, and hope you're feeling better.
And then make sure to go over and check out and thank all of the mods over on their channels. You can go to marfooglenews.com/friends. You can check out all of our great mods. All of their YouTubes are there. All of their links at their link trees. Ilea is over there if you want to go subscribe to her channel. Trinity, Wages World, RJL, Rip Curl, Lisa, Jammer, Jim, CJ, Chance, and Bones. Wages is covering all this solar activity. And real quick before we go, I have a lighting kit that is like fairy lights that is on this little Titanic model. And it goes along where, between the tubes or pipes, I forget what those are called. Dex, if you know, the exhausts of the Titanic, there's fairy lights that go across them. The batteries ran out months and months and months ago. When we had that solar storm, I thought this was wild, and I don't know if this is even possible. Somehow, these batteries, which have been dead, 2 AA batteries, all of a sudden were lightly lit. And it's been that way for a week now, after being dead for months. The batteries are truly as dead as it can be. They won't even, I was curious and I put them in the remote and they won't work, but they worked in the lights. And LED lights don't take that much power, but I thought, is this from the solar activity? That same day that they turned back on. And the switch was on the middle setting, which was, it was off. I mean, it literally lit up the thing. And that same day, my wife put on sunglasses and she wiped it with a regular t-shirt. I don't even think it was cotton. Wiped it. She said she could feel the static when she put it to her face. She said it was the weirdest thing ever. The plastic sunglasses had an aura around it when she put them on. And she didn't know that day was the back-to-back solar storms that were hitting us. That was also, everybody I've talked to has had some sort of issue with GPS here in Washington. I asked everybody else. People said that they had issues in Florida, and they had issues several other places. And of course, we always look at that because these countries could be messing with our GPS. But I think it was because of the solar activity. It showed, and it wasn't just a normal glitch. It was like restarted phones, everything else. I was heading from one hospital to another, and it literally showed us in Oregon, and then it showed us in Montana, and it kept flipping around, and it was like, what is going on here? I've never seen anything like it. It kept saying 18 hours, and then it would say 64 hours, and then it would say 22 minutes, and it was just bouncing all over. And it thought that we were somewhere else, and then it just wasn't working at all, and it kept reverting. It wasn't a settings thing, and then when I asked, everybody else said that they were having issues too. So it was not picking up GPS in areas. I think that was from the solar events, and I think it will get even crazier when we have a really, really big event. And it's a matter of time, not a matter of if. It's a matter of when. So have your stuff ready. Have a backup plan. If we do have a major solar event and lose power, People are going to be really bad off. Nobody has prep. I know you guys do, but we are the exception. We're not the majority. We are the minority of people. Everybody else is going to be knocking on our doors. Dex, thank you so much. Marf, Mods, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Everybody, have a lovely night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.
The Bible shows us how. He said he was coming soon, but it's happening now. They said it was